You are now listening to the Keith Ferrante podcast, hosted by the one and only Keith Ferrante.
Yo, Keith Ferrante here. How are you doing? It's so exciting to be alive and see what God is doing. I want to chat with you and all that are listening and watching. And by the way, just invite someone to get in on this conversation with you. Click on the whatever channel you're watching, whether if it's the YouTube channel, just share it with somebody and follow us, or if it's the podcast, share it with somebody as well, and whatever you are coming on. But I want to talk about just something out of my book, Friendship, that I recently put out on the friendship chart. This is some of the juicy nuggets out of chapter 3 of the friendship book. And we've been talking about that. We put that book out a few months ago. I believe it's been a couple months, maybe at the most. And it's really impacting some folks. Folks are getting impacted. Where transactions end and true connection begins. And that's what we're after. This is really a season where God is really emphasizing relationships, family relationships, friendships. Friendships are family you choose. So in the kingdom of God, you think about it, when we get to heaven, I know it's strange to think this way, but when we get to heaven, we're not going to have the lines of my family, my Ferrante family line, and then there's this family line, and it's all one family. That's only an earthly thing, an earthly value system, an important one. I'm thankful for it. But so friendship can be grafted into family, but it's something that you have to go on a journey to have. And so many of us need friends. Friends, there is a protection that you get with friends. There's a strengthening you get with friends. There's an encouragement you get with friends. There's a processing you can have with friends that even sometimes your own blood family you can't have with. Now, of course, if you're married, I'd encourage your deepest relationships to fight for the deepest relationship to be with your spouse. And then, so your friendship shouldn't be at a closer level than your spouse for the average person. David said about Jonathan, his best friend, "Your love was more wonderful to me than women." Now, that may have been cultural, but that was, he had 3 or 4 wives. Probably it was too much work. It's like, dude, it's way more easier to hang out with you, bro, than these women. But I think on the normal, God designed the spouse, husband and wife, to be that closest picture of intimacy. Two become one. I don't think you can get any closer to that. The friend, of course, you can get very close with vulnerability, but how do you get closer with the spouse? Of course, you're having physical intimacy, sex, and you're not going to have that with your friend, and you shouldn't be if you're having that. That's not the kind of friendship we're talking about here in these books. So there's another level involved when you get that physical intimacy. It kind of it creates a different dynamic, because you think about it, if you're a friend with another, you're a guy and you have another guy friend, or a gal and you have a gal friend, and you can really wrestle around and disagree, but at the end of the day, even if you disagree, you're gonna, there's a difference when you're married and you disagree. That hurts your sexual connection. And then if it hurts your sexual connection, if you're in a big fight, if it hurts your sexual connection, then the enemy starts tempting you many times, and he'll try tempting you if that disconnect is there long enough, and so there's other dynamics in the spouse relationship that you have to really work at to make that juicy, and so I think there's another level of reward there as well. So that's a side note. But let's get back to the friendship chart here. So friendship, we want to, when I first, actually this chart kind of came together, and it wasn't really that long before I wrote this book. So even this year, this chart really came clear to me. That's kind of one of my giftings, is always putting like like this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3, this is level 4. I always kind of stack things and try to figure out categories, and that's just kind of how I think. Which then, why I do that, because it helps me. If you're on a chart between 1 and 10, and 10 being the best thing, and you find that you're at level 4, it gives you growth. So like the charts for me are a discipleship tool to help people understand where they're at, including myself, to help where I'm at on a journey and whatever God's wanting to emphasize. So the friendship chart is just a chart that helps you understand where you're going. And I was with some friends, and we were hanging out, and we were just talking about some. One of the friends was talking about how they were gonna serve notice to their social media. It's like, hey, I am going to get rid of some of you guys. We're supposed to be in the friendship category, but you never pursue me, and so I'm gonna start getting rid of people that are considered friends, even my own, like people that this guy had spent a lot of time with over the years. It's like, I'm pursuing them more than you're pursuing me. And so we all get to these places where it feels a little bit of our heart starts hurting and we don't feel pursued. And so he was just like, I'm just going to start chopping some of my social media down. is just delete. You're not my friend. And because they're not pursuing. And so I thought that was a really good distinction that triggered me to a friendship chart. And I said, oh, okay. So then I created 5 levels to friendship. So let me just break those down for you just here in a minute. But level 1, which is the lowest level and the worst level on the friendship chart. Level 1 is I don't want friends. That's a person that does not want friends. And I believe everybody maybe deep down inside actually does want friends. But some people might live in this category because they've been hurt too much. It's too much pain. They've been rejected. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe they've tried to do some work and build friendships and connections. It's so hard, so they just go to I just don't want friends. I know this sounds hard, like no one would say that, I don't want friends, but I actually was just with somebody recently that said that exact thing. I'm like, dude, they were someone that I'm not close to, but I was an acquaintance getting to know them just a little bit, and they were like, you know what? I had some people coming to the gym, and they wanted to get to know me while I'm working out. I'm like, dude, get away from me! Like, I don't want to get to. And they're like, I just don't know why people want to get close to me. I don't want friends. And I'm like, and you know what? I think maybe every one of us could at certain times in our life be at this level. Like, I don't want friends, or I don't want any more friends. It's like it's too much work. It's too painful. I don't know if I can handle it anymore. And even in the family line, there was a bit of a joke that the Ferrante men don't consider someone a friend very easily. And so I kind of consider that maybe we have had to grow in this, even in the Ferrante family men. It seemed like the women might be a little better at it. But that's, so like for me, some of that comes from being a pastor and not knowing who your real friends were, because I started learning, I talk about it here in another chapter, that you thought people were your friends until you weren't no longer their pastor, and then it was like, oh, they were only your friends because you were the pastor. And so then I think after a certain amount of time, you start just getting jaded by that whole concept of friend. So then you just put people in sheep category. I'm the shepherd, you're the sheep. Let's not act like we're friends. And I'm not saying that's correct. I'm just saying that could be a cycle that caused the Ferrantes to need an upgrade in friendship. So thus, I wrote the book on friendship because of my own journey to embrace friends and to move out of that category. And this person that was telling me, I was telling you about, that said they didn't want friends, and people just kept trying to pursue them. I said, you know what that means? Actually, people do want to be your friend. You just got to let them in. You're saying I don't want friends, but you have something that they actually want to be around. So start believing that you are someone that people like. And even if you think to yourself emotionally, I don't really like this person, this is so much work, they're not the kind of person I'd want to get to know. All those things that would like push friends away, which I would call rejection. That's rejection. Let me just reject you because it was too painful to take a chance on a journey where we might become acceptable to each other and friends. So let me, instead of having to go on the journey where I could be hurt, let me just reject you right at the start. I just don't like you. So you know what I learned about myself? I had to give myself permission to emotionally not like people right away. And I know that this can kind of hurt people's feelings if they think that I'm rejecting them. But I just realized, you know what? My emotions sometimes didn't catch up as quick as my choice. I have made a choice that I need friends and that friends are good for me. And I need to continually grow my friendship circle. But that doesn't mean that I get around certain people that I necessarily like them right away. And my emotions, my heart says, ew, I don't like this person. Or they're not very nice. I don't like them. They said something disagreeable. But you think about it, when you're not friends yet, you're both kind of protecting your heart. So even if you say stuff, it's like a little sword. You jab that person, jab. I don't really care about that person. Anyways, jab, jab. And so they're jabbing, and you might be like in a belief. You're like kind of wrestling around beliefs. And so you're like, yeah, see, I don't like them anyways. We don't even believe the same thing. So you don't even let your heart come down, open up, and let somebody in. And so I would say, level one, I don't want friends. Like, it's not a position any of us should be at, but I get why we could start there. And, like even for me, I've had to journey, and even in coaching, this person that said I didn't want any friends, and say, hey, maybe that's not true. You need friends. There's a place in your heart that you don't realize. A friendship is actually protection. Scripture says, I think Job said, my friends are my intercessors, or he had some friends that they needed some upgrade on. They spent a bunch of time just condemning him when he got in a really low spot. So at the end of his journey, side note here, I think Job chapter 44, wherever it was, the Lord said, you forgive them. So he had to forgive his friends. And then when he forgave his friends, then God restored Job and blessed him twice as much. You think about it in the journey of friends, when friends actually betray us, hurt us, aren't there for us how we need them to be, condemn us in our worst moments, we have to forgive them for God to restore blessing to our life. So there is something so valuable about friendship, even in the pain of it. We can't live in the pain, the rejection, the unforgiveness. Friend means you're someone, even David said, the one that's trying to kill me, we used to go to the house of the Lord together. We used to be in the temple together. This is the one that I shared he's like my sweetest intimacy with. Now this guy betrayed me. I don't know who that was, but David had that friend. And then so I think every one of us has experienced that, which would create level one. I don't want friends, but we can never stay there. We have to choose to forgive. We have to choose to, not just for, like some people will stop it. Like I will forgive you, but I'll never have friends again. I'll never trust again. That's not the right position. You're only healed if you're back in the same kind of friendships where you were hurt before. So if you were hurt by business friends, you're only fully healed when you're back in a relationship with business friends again. They don't have to be this friend. Maybe this friend did not go on the journey of healing with you. So yes, some friends will not make it. But you have to get healed. And back into the game. Some people say, okay, I forgive, but now I'm just going to stay with this level of friends. I'm never going to widen it. That's not, if your heart got smaller in the journey of friendship, that's not a winning position. And guys, we're on the planet, and so Ephesians 6 says, hey, we're not fighting against flesh and blood. But the enemy always takes it to flesh and blood. So he makes the battle about flesh and blood. Friends, family, connection, even though that's not really what the battle is. We start believing it is, and then our heart gets shut down. And then what happens is the enemy is winning when our heart is shut down. We need friends. You need friends. I need them. They're actually protection. They're a layer, just like spiritual fathers are a protection. A spouse is a protection. Intercessors are protection. Friends are protection. Because what is protection? Love. Love is a covering. And Jesus said, I no longer call you servant. Everything I've learned from the Father, I've made known to you. I call you friend. Friendship is actually who Jesus wants to be with us. That is, it's a form of love. It is love. God is love. God is a friend. So friendship is love. Friendship is a protection. Fight for it, even if you feel like you're at a level 1. I don't want friends. It's only a momentary position for all of our hearts to regroup. But if you're in that position of I don't want friends, get back in the game, get your love on again. And hey, I look forward to chatting again because we're going to hit level 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the next sessions because this one went deeper than I expected. So share this with somebody, especially a level 1 person. And maybe someone that you're on a journey with. Let them know, hey, this is good for us, man. We need to make sure we don't get to this position of I don't want friends. We need to get some healing. And so if you care about someone, send them this. And thanks for being on the journey with us. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.